Today we're still solving quadratic equations, but we are going to do that by using square roots. So when you take the square root of a positive real number and the sign of the number is not indicated, you must find both the positive and the negative square root. So we are going to actually have two answers for these problems today. So first one just says solve using square roots. We want to figure out what x is here. So in order to cancel out a squared exponent of 2, we take the square root of both sides. So that is able to cancel out that. We're left with x. And the square root of 121 is 11. And it's actually a positive 11, and it's also a negative 11, because 11 times 11 and negative 11 times negative 11 will both give me 121. Okay, x squared equals 0. Same thing, we're going to take the square root of both sides. The squared and the square root cancel, we have x, and the square root of 0 is 0. And there's no positive or negative involved with that, so there's just one solution to this one. Then we have x squared equals negative 16. We have to cancel that squared, so we're going to take the square root. The square root and the squared cancel, we just have x. But the square root of negative 16, so square root means what can we multiply by itself to get that number? So, well, I can do 4 times 4 to get 16, but I need a negative 16. So if I make one of those negative, I'm going to not have the same number being multiplied together. So if one was negative, they both have to be negative, and that would still give me an answer of positive 16. So anytime you're left with that negative under the radical, there's no solution. So this one does not cross the x-axis. Solve using square root still, but there's just a little bit more to our problem. So we have to get rid of that 49 first. So we're going to subtract 49 from both sides. So I'd have 100 x squared equals negative 49. And then I have to divide by 100. So I just have that x squared equals negative 49 over 100. And then we have to take the square root of both sides. And I notice I have a negative under the radical, so this is no solution. Can't take the square root of that. Now, let's say it wasn't negative under there. What if we did have the square root of 49 over 100? You just simply break it up into two different problems. The square root of 49 would be 7, and the square root of 100 would be 10. And then we have a positive and negative. So our answer would be positive or negative 7/10. But because there's a negative under there, there's no solution. We cannot do that. All right, for this one, we're going to divide both sides by 36 because it's being multiplied there. So I'm going to have x squared equals 1 divided by 36. Have to cancel out that squared, so I'm going to take the square root of both sides. And again, we're going to break these up into two different problems. We have the square root of 1 over the square root of 36. So the square root of 1 is 1, and the square root of 36 is 6. And don't forget, we have to say positive and negative. And these ones say solve and then round to the nearest hundredth. So because I have 0 over here by itself, what I can do is just add x squared to both sides. If I add it, it's going to become a positive over here. So x squared, and then I'll be left with 90. And then I have to take the square root. That cancels, and I have x, and then I can type the square root of 90 in my calculator. And if I do that, I get 9.486, and the directions say to round that to the nearest hundredth. So that 6 says round up. So it would be 9.49. And don't forget your positive or negative sign. And for this one, we're going to add 64 to both sides. So we're going to have 2x squared. 0 plus 64 would be 64. And then we're going to divide everything by 2. So 64 divided by 2 would be 32. And then we're going to take the square root. So we would have x equals 5.656. And if I round that to the nearest hundredth, that 6 says go up. So it's going to be 5.66 and positive or negative. And our last one here, we're going to minus 45 from both sides. So I'm going to be left with x squared. 0 minus 45 would be negative 45. Take the square root of both sides. Get x over here, but there's that negative under the radical again, and I can't do that, so no solution.